Hello and welcome to another episode of the BSN podcast. Today is Friday, September 9th. Hope everybody's having a good day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Friday, September 9th here today. Hope everybody's having a good day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is a very, very exciting Friday here today as you're coming off of another big night last night in the world of sports where you had the Rams and the Bills. Bills absolutely dominate the Rams 31-10. Josh Allen with an MVP-like performance and really kind of a statement for the Bills. You know, they go in on the road to LA, to SoFi Stadium, the defending champions, the banner being shown, and the Bills just go in there, quiet the crowd, although there were a ton of Bills fans last night, but go in there, shock the Rams, and I saw it coming, but I did not see a 21-point blowout. I did not see 3 interceptions by Matt Stafford, and I also didn't have Cam Akers having 3 carries the entire game on my bingo card. So, a wild first game last night, and if last night's game was kind of a sign to come for fantasy football, some of you guys out there that play fantasy football, that started Cam Akers, that started Matt Stafford, well, that might not be a good sign for you this year because last night Stafford was awful and Cam Akers barely played and Jalen Ramsey did terrible. Not that you can get him in fantasy, but Rams defense actually didn't. They had 10 points in fantasy, which is surprising considering you obviously start at 10, so they really didn't get any points, but usually you're losing points. And if obviously the couple turnovers by the Bills, the fumble, the 2 interceptions and stuff like that, but it was just the Bills dominated. they absolutely dominated that game really from start to finish. So a really good win for the Bills. I think they kind of showed us all yesterday, that they are the best team in football right now, and they are the team to beat. I know it's only week 1, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I think they kind of showed that yesterday. The AFC East is the Bills. It's the Bills and nobody else. I would love to say the Jets, but it's the Bills. So a great win last night for the Bills. Yankees took a loss last night, tough one. Against the Twins, but you still take 3 of 4. You lose, obviously, 4 of 3. You take 3 of 4. You look to bounce back today against Tampa. First of a 3-game set. Mets will also open up a 3-game set today against Miami. So we're looking forward to, we'll see what they do there with the Mets and the Yankees. And, with that being said, let's get into the topics. I don't want to waste any time. Got a lot to get to today. It is, in fact, a Football Friday podcast. We're going to start off with my NFL game picks. Yes, it is back. Football is back 2 days away from the Jets-Ravens home opener, 2 days away from the first Sunday in baseball, so really looking forward to that. And, we're going to get into my game picks. You know how the drill. I'll go through each game. Obviously, predict them. I'll recap a little bit about the Bills-Rams, but we'll go into each game, predict them. Monday, we'll do the Monday night game, which is Broncos-Seahawks in Seattle, Russell Wilson's return. We'll get to that on Monday, but other than that, we'll get to all the games ranging from 1 o'clock all the way to the nightcap, which is Buccaneers-Cowboys at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. So we'll talk about that one as well. And then we'll get to fantasy football. It's a Football Friday. That's what it is. We'll give you advice. I'll, tell you kind of what my lineup's looking like, some possible roster moves you might need to make. You hear the move. You hear that Allen Lazard is out. Does that hurt Rodgers in any way? You hear that Dobbins is out. What do you do? If you got to fill in for Dobbins. So there's definitely some roster moves out there that you might be interested. Could possibly Gibson play a role if you have Dobbins out, and could he come in? So there's definitely some possible scenarios that you could look at coming into the weekend, and we'll finish off with the New York sports update. As always, Yankees tonight, first game of a 3-game set against the Rays, and Mets tonight, first game of a 3-game set against the Marlins down in Miami. So we'll see how all that plays out. So with all that being said, a lot to get to today on the podcast. It is a Football Friday BSN Network edition of the podcast. And let's get right into it. So we're going to start things off with the game picks. Last night, the NFL season got kicked off last night with the Bills' 31-10 win, like I mentioned earlier. Dominant victory by the Bills. Open up the game 10-0. Rams then come back, but then they dominated the second half, toasting Jalen Ramsey. Him allowing 2 touchdowns, 6 catches, and 100-something yards, and had a perfect passer rating against him. It was just brutal. Awful game by Ramsey, and a great win for the Bills. And I think the Bills kind of showed us last night all of us football fans, just in case if we haven't noticed yet or realized yet, they are the team to beat in the NFL. And I think everybody's got to realize that. I think everybody has to see that. They are the team to beat in the NFL. And I don't think there's much of an argument. I don't think there is much of a debate. They're the team to beat, and they showed that last night, stopping the defending world champions right in their tracks. Just dominating. Stafford looked terrible. Was it a little bit of the elbow? I don't know. He did not look good. 3 interceptions. Bills defense dominated. Offense played well. Fired on all cylinders. They look good. And Josh Allen last night had an MVP performance. Now, I know he had the one interception wasn't his fault. I understand you could say, oh, well, he had the interception, but no, he was good. Josh Allen was good last night. He was Josh Allen, and that's the end of the story. So let's get to the game picks. We're going to start things off, just go in order. I did have the Bills winning last night, except I had a 31-21. I did not expect a 21-point victory, but I did have the Bills win, so I moved to 1-0 on my game picks coming into this week. So I'm 1-0. That means the perfect is still up, possibly still up in the air. I don't think it's going to happen. I actually hope it doesn't happen because a couple of my picks I don't want to happen. As you know, if I pick against my favorite team, hint, hint, I don't want to see that happen. So we'll get into it here. We're going to start things off. 49ers, Bears. Bears at home for this one. Niners on the road. Niners open up this game as a 7-point favorite. The over-under set at 40.5, and it's Sunday, 9/11, which will be obviously an emotional day for many. Emotional day for obviously the country, but it's on Fox, 1 Eastern on Fox, and it's going to be an interesting game. You obviously have Trey Lance coming into this game, his first real game of, I know he started, previously played a little bit last year, but I talked about it. You know how I feel about the Bears. You know how I feel about the Niners. I like the Niners a lot this year. I have them winning 10 games and finishing in second in the NFC West and making the playoffs. I have them being one of the 7 playoff teams in the NFC. This is a good first test for Trey Lance, right? Not an incredibly good team. It is on the road. It's not like you got to go play, a road team right off the bat. It's not like you got to go play like Denver or somebody like that, or even go on the road and play like a team like Tampa or Dallas or one of those teams. I don't even know if they'll get to those teams this year, but one of those teams are on the road in Lambeau. This is not like one of these games where you got to go on the road and play in a really tough environment. Chicago, it's obviously going to be packed. Fans are going to want to go to the game, but it's a good first test for Trey Lance, right? It's against a Chicago team that's not going to be very good this year. When I look at this matchup, the Niners are just a more talented roster. You know how I feel about Chicago. Sure, they got Roquan Smith on the defense. I like San Francisco a lot. They have a lot of weapons. Does George Kittle play or not? That's still to be determined. Even if he does or if he doesn't, I don't think it's going to be that much of an impact. They still have Deebo Samuel. They still have Brandon Ayuk. They still have a solid offensive line. Elijah Mitchell. Trey Lance can do a lot of things. They're just a better team. Chicago's not very talented. Give me the Niners. The win. 24-10, Niners win. I'll take the under on the over-under 40.5, and I got the Niners winning and covering the 7 points to start things off. Game number 2, you got the Browns, Panthers, CBS. Line right now is even, and the game's over-under is at 42. I don't know how in the world this is at an even line right now. You know how I feel about the Browns. I don't like the Browns at all. I don't think they're a very good team. Obviously their defense is solid. This is a big game for Baker Mayfield. It's obviously going to be a game, a very emotional game for Mayfield, a very emotional game for the Browns going up against his former team. The Browns going up against their former quarterback, the guy that they thought was the franchise, drafting him number 1 overall a couple years ago. There's going to be a lot of high energy. But when I look at this game again, you look at the quarterbacks. Look at the Niners and the Bears. Who has the better quarterback, Trey Lance or Justin Fields? Well, you really can't tell that yet, but the more talented team is the Niners. Who do you probably trust more with the weapons around him? That's Trey Lance. Look at here. It's Jacoby Brissett and Baker Mayfield. No, Baker Mayfield has not shown a ton throughout his career. He did show in that 2020 season, though. If he plays at a high level, he's going to perform well. You know how I feel about this Cleveland. You know how I feel about this Browns team. I don't think they're very good. I think they're going to really, really struggle the 11 weeks that Deshaun Watson's out. I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in football. I have them finishing last in the AFC North. I just look at this game and I say, as long as the Panthers stay healthy and they have the weapons around them, they'll do enough to put up points on this Browns defense, and I don't think this Browns offense is going to be able to move the ball much, even with Carolina being a very good defense. Their offense is terrible, or Jacoby Brissett's terrible. He's going to struggle. give me the Panthers in this one. I think the Panthers are going to win by a lot. 31-13, Panthers win. I'll take the over on the over-under of 42, and I got the Panthers winning this game. Baker Mayfield has a good first game as they beat up on the Browns without their starting quarterback. We got the Colts Texans here. Colts open up this game as a 7-point favorite. The over-under set at 46. This game's 1 Eastern on CBS. Again, another game where you look at the quarterback conversation. You go ahead and say, all right, you got Matt Ryan and Davis Mills, who showed some signs last year, not a ton. You know how I feel about Houston. I don't think they're a very good team. Yes, they're at home, all that stuff. I know Damian Pierce is good, had a good camp, but look, their defense is not great. They got really no receivers. It's Brandon Cooks, and that's about it. I know Davis Mills showed you some signs last year, but still, he's not the guy. I don't think he's really the answer. I don't really think he's a guy that's going to go out there and win a ton of football games. I like what the Colts are doing this year. They obviously got a nice receiving core. They got a very good running back, solid offensive line, very good defense. The Colts are an under-the-radar team that could possibly make a little bit of noise in the AFC. I don't think they're going to be a phenomenal team, but could they be a team that maybe sneaks around and wins 9, 10, 11 games? They definitely can. I had them, I think, finishing at 9-8. I actually have them finishing at 9-8. Could they maybe get to the 10-11 win mark if Matt Ryan plays well and he finds Pittman and all those guys' pieces fall in place? Definitely. And if Jonathan Taylor has the year everyone's expecting him to have? Definitely. But when I look at these two rosters, again, what's the more talented team? The Colts and Matt Ryan and their offense, or the Texans, who have a question at quarterback, many questions at receiver? Their running back was good in preseason. What is he going to do in the regular season? Defense isn't very good, and you don't know what Lovie Smith's going to bring as a head coach. So give me the Colts. Give me the team that's going to, the Colts are just going to be one of those teams. They're not going to be this flashy team. They're going to find ways to win. And they did that a little bit last year. I know they missed the postseason, and they did it the year or two prior with Phillip Rivers. They find ways to win. It's not always the prettiest way, but they do it anyway. Give me Indianapolis. Give me the Colts. 24-14 Colts win. I'll take the over-under on the over-under of 46, and I think the Colts do cover the 7 points. 1 Eastern on Fox here. You got the Eagles and the Lions. Eagles hit the road to Detroit. Eagles are 4.5-point favorites, which I think is ridiculous. I don't think it's crazy. I do think Detroit might keep this game close. The over/under set at 48.5. And look, you know how I feel about Philly. And again, whenever you're predicting the first couple games of the season, week 1, it's kind of always based off of what you saw in the offseason and based off of what you saw in the preseason and a little bit based off of what you saw last year. And what we saw last year out of this Philly team was a team that got to the postseason. They obviously lost to Tampa and took a very, very tough loss and got beat up badly in Tampa, but they still have a lot of talent. And when I look at this Philly team, they got better. They truly got better. You can't say that about many teams in football where they really, really get better. Some teams kind of stay the same. Some teams do get better. I look at this Philly team. They went out and got Gardner Johnson very close to week 1. They already have Jalen Hurts, who's young, and he's going to continue to get better. They had Devontae Smith last year. He's going to continue to get better. You add A.J. Brown. You put that to a group that already includes Dallas Goedert, who might be primed for a big season, and a guy like a Miles Sanders, who's, when he's out there, is one of the more consistent running backs in the league. They have a very good roster. There's a couple people out there that have them in Super Bowl hopes. I don't think they'll win the Super Bowl, but they're definitely a team that can make some noise in the NFC. I have them winning the NFC East. Now, I will tell you, I do think the Lions will keep this game close. We know this about Detroit. Last year in almost every game they played, they were close. It was not a blowout. They were a lot of close games. There were a lot of nail-biters, a couple game-winning field goals, cough, cough, Justin Tucker, right? A lot of really close games. I think Detroit will be competitive in this game, but I still have Philly pulling away late, and I have Philly still covering. Although I think, going into the second half, you're going to have a game because I think Detroit's going to keep it close, but I think just more talent on Philly's side is going to prevail late in the game. Give me Philly 31-17. Again, it might be a 24-14 or a 17-14 game going into halftime. I think, Philly, more talent. They're just going to kind of prevail and kind of put up a lot of points late. Give me Philly 31-17. I'll take the under on the over-under of 48.5. I got it right at 48, and I have the Eagles covering the 4.5 points at a 31-17 victory. All right, so now we go to the Commanders and the Jaguars. Commanders open up this game as a 2.5-point favorites. The over-under set at 44, 1 Eastern on Fox. This is an interesting game because you don't know really what to expect out of either of these teams. And there's so many questions with both of these teams. It's kind of crazy. It really is. What's funny about the Commanders and the Jaguars is they both have two proven head coaches. Ron Rivera is a proven coach, and, obviously Jaguars as well, proven coach in Doug Peterson. Couldn't think of the name there for a second. Right? Won a Super Bowl. Ron Rivera took Carolina to a Super Bowl in those years with Cam Newton. Right? Two proven head coaches. Two guys you trust. But the players on the roster, you really don't know what to expect. And for Washington, you don't know what to expect out of Carson Wentz. And really for Jacksonville, you can say to a certain extent you don't know what to expect out of Trevor Lawrence. But I think most people would expect, with his talent, him to make a second-year jump and play well this season. But what you don't know what to expect out of this team in Jacksonville is, what are you going to get out of the receivers? Zay Jones, Marvin Jones Jr., and Christian Kirk. What are you going to get out of those guys? Those are three. Yeah, they are. You know who they are, but those are three guys. Are they going to be able to play up to the amount of money they're making? Are they going to be able to play up to a level of a number one, a number two receiver? Is Christian Kirk going to be able to live up to $84 million? You have a lot of questions in that receiving core. Your defense as well. And for Washington, your questions at quarterback. What is Carson Wentz going to be? Is he going to be the Carson Wentz we saw towards the end of Philly and Indy last year? Or is he going to be the Carson Wentz or is he going to show some signs and be close to the Carson Wentz we saw earlier in his career, which was an MVP candidate? Which Carson Wentz are you going to get? So I look at this game as a big question mark. Now, I think Washington wins this game just because I think they're a little bit more talented. I think, I like their defense a little bit more. I think, Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, they got a solid running back room. So does Jacksonville, but I like the talent a little bit more. Curtis Samuel. They're a little bit more talent on Washington's side. They're also just a little bit more, veteranized team. They're a team that, I know they added a new quarterback, but it's mainly the same pieces. Jacksonville had a complete roster overhaul. There's a ton of new faces, a ton of new pieces, right? So I like Washington here. I like their team, or I like their chances here. Again, I'm not a huge fan of this game. I don't think this is a game I'm not a big fan of this game just because of both teams have so many questions. And the line shows it. It's a 2.5-point favorite to Washington. If the odds makers really felt confident about Carson Wentz in Washington, this would be a 7-8 point spread. But they don't, because you don't know what to expect out of Carson Wentz. And they obviously still don't know what they're going to get out of Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence, or else they might be the favorites. Because if you really think about it, if Trevor Lawrence plays up to the back of his playing card, he should be better than Carson Wentz. But you don't know that yet. So I look at this game as a big question mark. I don't know what to expect in this game. I do have the Commanders winning just because I think they're a little bit more talented, a little bit more experienced. They're at home. I just like the Commanders here. I'm still not a huge fan of Jaguars. I don't think their receiving core is very good. Give me Washington and their defense, Chase Young, those pieces like that, to win this game. Low scoring, 17-10. Commanders win. I'll take the under on the over-under of 44. Commanders win, cover with a late touchdown, and cover the 2.5 points. Now we go to the Patriots and the Dolphins, and a lot of people are probably going to disagree with me here. Dolphins come into this game 3.5-point favorites. The over-under set at 46.5. Sunday, 1 Eastern on CBS. A lot of people are probably going to disagree with me here. I have New England winning this game. Again, I go back to the quarterback. You look at a lot of these games, and you say to yourself, who's got the better quarterback? Who's got the better offense? Who do you trust more? Well, who do I trust more? Dolphins' new head coach and their questionable coaching staff and his way of doing things, or Bill Belichick? Who do you trust? I trust Bill Belichick. I would trust Mac Jones more than I do Tua. Again, I have Miami, and I know might sound crazy, but I have Miami finishing last in the AFC East. I don't think Miami's going to be very good this year. I don't. I like Tyreek Hill a lot. I know Jalen Waddle's good. I don't trust Tua. I don't think he's the franchise quarterback. I do not think he's the guy in Miami. When you look at this game, New England's the better team. They have the better quarterback. They have the better defense. They have the better coach. They have almost every advantage you could think. On paper, it looks like they might not have a good offense. But Mac Jones, I would trust a lot more in a playoff game and in a game to win than Tua right now. I would. Sure, you put all the weapons around Tua. I said this when I did my AFC's predictions. Put Jerry Rice next to Tua. Tua's not good. You can put as much talent as you want to around him. He has shown you nothing in his couple years in the league. He hasn't shown you anything. Mac Jones showed you some promise. I understand, the offensive coordinator situation in New England, Bill Belichick will figure it out. I think New England goes on the road and beats Miami, and I don't think it's going to be surprising. A lot of people are going to be surprised and think, wow, Miami lost. I don't think that's very surprising. I fully expect it. And go out there and prove me wrong. Tua, go out there, throw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and I'll come on Monday and I'll admit I was wrong. But for right now, I don't trust Tua. I don't. And it's going to take me a little bit to fully buy into it if he starts to play well. It's going to take a little bit. Because you don't know what to expect out of him. He's wild. He's not accurate. Great, now you got him a number 1 receiver. Can he get the ball to that guy? He had Jalen Waddle last year. He's had some pieces around him. It hasn't really been the weapons that have been an issue. It's been his talent. And I think that's what's going to continue to happen. So give me New England with the road. On paper, it's an upset. I really don't think it's an upset because I fully expect New England to win this game. Give me the Patriots 24-10. I don't like the Miami Dolphins at all. I don't like their offense. I don't like the coaching staff. I don't like their whole situation. Tua's not good. That's my feeling. That's my opinion. I think New England wins this game 24-10. I'll take the under on the over-under of 46.5. And I think Patriots win. Give me the Patriots plus 3.5. And I'll take the Patriots in this one over the Miami Dolphins, Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida. Now we go to the Saints-Falcons. Saints come into this game 5.5-point favorites. Falcons come into this game 40 over-under at 43. They are obviously the 5.5-point underdogs. This game comes on Fox, a little NFC South in-division matchup. Again, similar to what I just said. Marcus Mariota is not good. You don't know what you're going to get at Desmond Ridder this year. It's obviously going to be Mariota week 1. I'm not a huge Jameis Winston fan. I'm not a huge New Orleans Saints fan. I think they're a solid team. I think they'll be a playoff team. But I just don't. Again, not a huge fan of them. But again, you know how I feel about the Falcons. They got really no receivers. Cordero Patterson, I know, their defense is not good. Sure, they have Drake London, but their quarterback's Mariota. They're a mess. They're a hot mess. I always talk about it. The 2 days that they came to play the Jets in the joint practices, the Jets dominated those 2 days. They did. And there was no questions, no debating. The Jets dominated those 2 joint practices. And what you saw at a Mariota was a guy that was not playing well at all. And what you saw at Desmond Ridder was a rookie that showed some flashes, but it's going to be Mariota starting. Again, talk about the quarterbacks. Mariota's not very good. Michael Thomas, I guess, is going to try to give it a go. You have Alvin Kamara. You have some pieces. You're obviously Ridley's out for the entire season. You don't have the quarterback. You're running back. It's a mess. It's a mess in Atlanta. They don't have the pieces. They don't have the talent. Give me New Orleans big, 31-10. New Orleans win. I'll take the under on the over-under 43, and I think the Saints cover the 5.5 very, very easily on the road in New Orleans or in Atlanta. So to close out the 1 o'clock games, Bengals-Steelers. Bengals open up this game as a 6.5-point favorite. Steelers are over-under at 44. They're 6.5-point underdogs. 1 Eastern, CBS. I like the Bengals in this one. Again, look at the quarterbacks. It's Joe Burrow and it's Mitch Trubisky. I'm not a believer that last year was a big, what do you want to call it? Like a big fluke or just a breakout year for the Bengals. I think that's this Bengal team that you're going to get this year and for a very long time. Are they going to make the Super Bowl every year? No, I don't think that's going to happen, but are they going to be in it every year? Are they going to be in it for a very long time? Yes, I do think so. Unfortunately, they do have a team like the Bills, obviously. Unfortunate for Bengals fans, that's going to probably stand in their way. It seems like the Bills are kind of dethroning the Chiefs a little bit as the new AFC East team to beat. But the Bengals are a good team. They have a lot of good pieces. Yes, I know they lost Yazam in the offseason, but you have Jamar Chase, you have T. Higgins, you have Tyler Boyd, you have Joe Mixon. They upgraded the offensive line, and that's the biggest thing to me. If you look at this game, like this time last year, this would have been a tough game for the Bengals to win. With T.J. Watt rushing you, with the pieces that the Steelers have on defense, it would have been a tough game. But with the revamped offensive line that the Bengals have now, Burrow's going to have a lot more time in the pocket, It's going to put a lot more stress on the secondary. And look, this new offensive line's got a very big test early on. TJ Watt is their first opponent. So we'll learn a lot about the O-line this first week of the season. But again, you talk about teams that are, Mitch Trubisky's not the future in Pittsburgh, as they start the Big Ben era, post-Big Ben era. He's not the future. He's going to start the first couple weeks, but he's not the future. It's Kenny Pickett. Whenever he starts, when they decide to put him in, it's going to be Kenny Pickett. I don't think there's much debate. Give me the Bengals 24-21. I think it's or 24-17. I think they cover the 6.5. Bengals win 24-17. I'll take the under on the over-under of 44, and I give me the Bengals the win. All right, so now we go to the 4 o'clock games here. We got a couple of these, about 4 of these, 3 of these, and then we'll get to the Giants and the Titans. Chiefs, Cardinals. Chiefs open up as 6-point favorites. Over-under set at 54. 4:25 Eastern on CBS. Look, I think this Chiefs win this game. All right, it's how I feel about this is obviously first game for Kansas City post Tyreek Hill era. Without Tyreek Hill, you hear from Mahomes that he's going to be spreading the ball out, trying to get it to McCole Hardman, trying to get it Sky Moore involved, Juju Smith-Schuster, obviously Kelsey, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. A big key this season for Kansas City, I believe, is the health of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If he could stay healthy this year, which has been an issue in past years, especially last year, if he can stay healthy, that's big. Because if your passing game starts to struggle for, a reason being Tyreek Hill's not there, although I don't think it's going to happen just because, Mahomes is that good. If it does start to struggle, you're going to be in a situation where you're going to need to rely on that run game. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to need to be leaned on a lot in those games. So he's a big key, big X factor this season for the Chiefs. He's a big piece of this roster, a big piece of this team. They're going to have to rely on him a little bit more than they usually have. But, I talked about the Cardinals just yesterday. They're not going to be without Hopkins for the first 6 weeks. They don't have him on the team. He's obviously suspended, PEDs. There's, Rondell Moore's kind of your number one guy. You're going to have to hope Zach Ertz, who's out of his prime. Your running back situation with James Conner, sure, that might sound good, but it's really not that great. I think Hilaire's the better running back. I mean, you look at this team, you look at this matchup, it's all Chiefs. The only thing that the Cardinals have the advantage in, I would say, is that they're home. The Chiefs have the better defense, they have the better quarterback, they have the better running back, they have the better offensive line, and they have the better receiving core, and they have the better tight end. They do have the better receiving core. Yes, it's not Tyreek Hill, but there's more depth to the receiving core. It's Rondell Moore, and that's about it in Arizona. That's about it. And they have the coaching advantage too. Cliff Kingsbury really hasn't proven himself yet. You know how I feel. I don't think I think Arizona's a 7-win team this year. And I still think Kansas City makes the postseason. So we'll get a good look at Kansas City's offense. We will. What they're like, how does Patrick Mahomes spread the ball out, all those different things. So give me Kansas City 31-14. I think they blow out. I don't think it's going to be bad for the Cardinals. It's going to be real bad. Look at the Cardinals' schedule to open up the season. It's brutal. It's brutal. At home against Kansas City, on the road against Vegas, at home Rams, Panthers, Eagles, Seahawks. Good chance you're 1-5, 2-4 when D-Hop comes back. And when he does come back, we'll look at the schedule. Saints, Vikings, Seahawks again, winnable. Then it's Rams, Niners, Chargers. You come out of the bye, Patriots, Broncos, Buccaneers, Falcons on the road in San Francisco. Those are your games. Their schedule is awful this year. And the fact that your number one receiver is going to miss the first 6 games, it's going to be a very bad year, I think, in Arizona. So give me the Chiefs, the win. All right, so 2 more 4 o'clock games, and we'll get to the 8 o'clock, and then we'll get to the Jets and Giants. Vikings, Packers. Packers open up this as a 1.5-point favorites. Vikings over under 46. They're the 1.5 underdogs, 4:25 Eastern on Fox. Up until about an hour ago, up until about when I was just about to do the pod, I had Packers winning this game. And I think this is going to be a fun division to watch this year. I think the NFC North, there's a lot to look forward to. I think the Packers win a division at 12-5. I think the Vikings come in second at 11-6. It's going to be a division that's going to come down to the wire. The AFC North and the NFC North are very exciting. No, they're not going to have 3 playoff teams come out of there like the AFC West, but it's going to be close. I think the Bengals and Ravens are going to be playing very meaningful games in December for the division, and I think the Vikings and the Packers are going to be playing also very meaningful games for the division in December. And it's games like this that are big. Get the season off started right. I was going to pick the Packers, but then you hear Allen Lazard is doubtful, and he's probably not going to play. And not saying Allen Lazard is this big-time receiver, but remove Allen Lazard from the receiving core. He's kind of your number one guy now. Now you're without him. And oh yeah, Devontae Adams, you don't have him anymore. So I was going to pick Green Bay, but they're on the road. Viking fans are going to be pumped up. New coach, Kevin O'Connell, a lot of excitement at home. And for the Packers, no Adams anymore. No Devontae Adams. Allen Lazard's not going to probably play. He's doubtful. I mean, all odds, I think the Vikings have a very good chance at this game. Look at the offenses. Who's got the better running game? I mean, that's up for debate. It's close. Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon as the two-headed monster in Green Bay, and then you got Dalvin Cook. Who has the better receiving core? Without a doubt, it's Minnesota. And who has the better tight end? It's probably Minnesota too. So you could make the argument in running and block the line, offensive line. Both teams have solid offensive line. So you look at the rosters. I think the Vikings are the better team going in. Now I don't think they win the division just because I think they'll find their way and they're going to win games. But without Allen Lazard on the road in Minnesota, that's going to be a tough matchup. Give me Minnesota. This is the last second change. So I might regret this after this game is over if the Packers do win this game. This feels like a fantasy football move that you're making 10 minutes before 1 o'clock. But I am making a last second change here. Vikings over the Packers. No Allen Lazard. Vikings very thin with the receivers. Rodgers is going to have slim pickings. Kirk Cousins has everybody. Give me the Vikings at home. 31-28, late field goal. Greg Joseph will seal the deal, and Kevin O'Connell will get his first victory in the division against the Packers and as the Vikings head coach, and at home as the Vikings head coach. So give me the Vikings, 31-28. Give me the Vikings, 31-28. I'll take the over on the over-under 46.5, and Vikings plus the 1.5. Raiders-Chargers here. Very good AFC West matchup. Chargers open up this game as a 3.5-point favorites. The over-under is 52.5, 4:25 Eastern, CBS. Chargers' season last year was ended in Vegas. They get a chance to redeem themselves this time at home. SoFi Stadium, home of both the Rams and the Chargers. We'll see if there'll be a win there this week. Rams losing last night. Let's see if the Chargers can do their job and win at home. Tomorrow or Sunday. Look, this is going to be an exciting matchup. I'm excited for this. This is going to be a matchup there's going to be a couple more of these this year that you're going to really look forward to. I think the Raiders and the Chargers are both playoff teams, and it's going to be an exciting game. Chargers at home, but you know how I feel about the Chargers. I like the Raiders a lot. I think they're a very good team. I think they have a lot of talent. They come into this season with a lot of expectations, but I like the Chargers. I think they're the better team, and they're at home. Justin Herbert, Eckler, they're just stacked, and their defense is good. I mean, they're just fun to watch, and then they're going to come into this game, too. Their energy, the home crowd energy, the season opening up is one thing, and then they're going to come into this game with a little extra energy, too. Chip on their shoulder after the way last season ended in Vegas. This time they get the Raiders at home, and, it's an opportunity to kind of bounce back after losing last year and missing a spot in the postseason. So Chargers, Raiders, give me the Chargers. 31-24. I'll take the over on the over-under of 52.5, and then the Chargers just cover the 3.5 points. And as for the Buccaneers, Cowboys, as we close it out here, Buccaneers open up this game at 2.5-point favorites. Over-under is at 50.5, 8:20 Eastern, NBC. Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth on the call. That will be their first Sunday Night Football game of the season. They obviously called last night's game, but this will be the first Sunday game of the season. And look, it's the first Sunday night game. Sunday Night Football is always fun, especially when your team wins. Sitting back Sunday night, getting ready for the week to start again. Sunday Night Football is always enjoyable if your team wins. If your team loses, Sunday and Monday are not great, But if your team wins, and I'll get to the Jets here in a second, then, it's all good. So, Buccaneers, Cowboys, AT&T Stadium in Dallas. Dak's good to go. I know he's questionable, and for the fantasy owners out there, don't panic. He's good to go. I'll get to that here in a little bit when I talk about fantasy. Big year for the Cowboys. Big year for the Cowboys. Big year for Mike McCarthy. Big year for Dak. Just a monster year. Without Amari Cooper, you got to rely on a guy like a CeeDee Lamb, who I do think is up to the task, but he's going to kind of be your number one guy now. And look, this is a big game. This is a massive game for the Cowboys to open up. They opened up last year on the road in Tampa. They open up this season at home against Tampa. And look, this game is a lot of storylines. First game for Dak without Amari Cooper and all that stuff, and Mike McCarthy and the storylines that the Cowboys go into the season with. And there's also the storyline of Tom Brady unretiring, and then now Todd Bowles being his first game as a coach. A lot of excitement going into this game. I'm going to take Tampa Bay. Again, Brady, Gallup's hurt for Dallas. They got questions on the offensive line. It's hard to pick against Brady. It's tough to pick against this team. Very good defense. A very tough task first week of the season for a Cowboys offense that's still kind of trying to find their identity in a way without a guy like Amari Cooper, if you follow what I'm saying. So give me Tampa with a road win. 31-21. Tampa wins. And I'll take the over. What is it? What's the over-under? I'll take the over on the over-under of 50.5, and I think Tampa just covers the 2.5 points. Give me Tampa. And then we'll get to the Broncos and the Seahawks on Monday. And as for the Giants and the Jets, we'll get to the Giants first. Giants on the road in Nashville. Titans open up the game at 5.5-point favorites, 4:25 Eastern on Fox. The over-under set at 44. Obviously, the first game for the Giants in the Dable era. This is an interesting game. You have a team like the Giants coming in and kind of being in a rebuild, new coach, all that stuff, and you have a team like the Titans that lost some pieces in the offseason, aren't fully rebuilding, but it's almost like there's definitely questions for the future and what's Tannehill's future and all that stuff. This is a big game for the Giants. Obviously, anytime you have a new coach, you want to get off to the right start. You want to get off on the right foot on the road. It's a tough environment, tough team. They have a solid defense. And again, you can't stress enough this year for the Giants. This is Daniel Jones' year. He's got to have a good year. And every week, he's going to be dissected every single week. And you want to get off to a good start. You don't want to go on the road in Tennessee and get blown out, throw 3 interceptions, and have the fan base calling for your head already after week 1. You don't want that. And for Dable, again, a little extra pressure going into this game, right? It's the Titans. They're a team that is without Harold Landry for the season. There's definitely some holes on the roster, the receiving core, all this stuff. It should be a close game. I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I really don't. Because I don't think the Titans are going to make the playoffs this year. I don't. I have the Titans finishing at 7-10. I don't think they're going to make the postseason. Nor do I think the Giants are. And I have the Giants finishing worse than the Titans. And I think the Titans will win this game. But I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Because I'm not a huge fan of the Titans. And I think for Dable and the Giants, again, they are where the Jets were last season. And I think for a realistic expectation this year, try to be in almost every game you're in. Right? Don't get all these blowouts. Last year, it was blowout after blowout after blowout under Joe Judge. Don't let that happen. Right? Go into each game with a fight, a battle. Have each game, kind of meet, go into the fourth quarter with it meaning something. I think Mike Vrabel, his experience, a little bit better roster, all those things, definitely you got to take into account here. At home, give me the Titans. I'll take them to win. I think it's going to be close. 21-13 Titans win. Late touchdown seals the deal. I think they just cover the 5.5. I'll take the under on the over-under of 44. And I think the Titans win this game. By the way, 64% of people think Tennessee will win. So, I guess we'll see how all that plays out. And as for the Jets and Ravens, I hate doing this. I hate it. I hate picking against my favorite team. I hope I'm wrong every week I do it. Now, if I pick, obviously, for the Jets, you know how I am. Hate picking against the Jets. Jets open up this game as a 6.5-point underdog. Ravens are obviously the favorites. Over under at 44, 1 Eastern on CBS. Look, here's my deal with the Jets. It was tough. We all kind of had all this excitement and optimism, and you still have that optimism, excitement, but you hear that Wilson goes down. Dwayne Brown's not ready to go. The Ravens are they're just a little bit better. Their quarterback. I'm not saying Flacco's the issue, but their defense. I think what I want to see. I obviously want to see a win. But the biggest thing I think for the Jets this weekend is you cannot, and I mean cannot, at home. A lot of optimism going into the season, a lot of expectations, a big year for Saleh. You cannot get blown out. You can't. You can't lay an egg where you lose 31-10. Flacco throws 3 interceptions and Lamar rushes for 200 yards. I will tell you something. Dobbins probably won't play this weekend. So that's an advantage for the Jets. I think when you look at it, the Jets need to stop Jackson. They need to keep him in the pocket, and you got to win battles up front. You got to. Ravens missing an offensive lineman, got to win the battles. JFM, Carl Lawson coming off the edge, Quentin Williams, they need to be huge. Those are your run stoppers. They need to be big this weekend. And the Jets got to get the balls to the tight end. Last year, the Ravens struggled to guard C.J. Uzomah in the 2 games they played against him, and they also struggled to guard really any of the tight ends. They really struggled. And for the Jets, they got to find a way to stop tight ends. For both teams, Ravens got to find a way to stop the Jets tight ends. Jets got to force feed the Jets. Flacco's got to get the ball to the tight ends. He doesn't have to force feed them, but get the ball to him. The Ravens last year struggled guarding tight ends, specifically Uzomah, who you got on your team. And also get Conklin involved too. And you got to find a way to continue. Your linebackers have to be big. And why the defensive front is so pivotal is you can't have the linebackers running all over a place all game. You can't. You can't have them running after Mark Andrews and then Lamar Jackson breaks free and then you got linebackers going all over the place. That just can't happen. We had a lot of that last year. It can't happen against Baltimore. Jets need to play a very, very clean game because Harbaugh and he's going to have his guys ready. Jets need to be ready as well. So I obviously hope I'm wrong with this one. I want to see the Jets win so badly because so much optimism going into the season. You love to get off on the right note, win a game in September. And I don't want to look ahead, but if you win this game, you play up against a Cleveland team that you should feel very good about beating. And if you go 2-0 there, I mean, if you can win, if the Jets can find a way to win this game, it would be huge. I understand it's only week 1, but you don't understand how big getting off to a right note is, especially for a year that's so big for the coach and for a year that in reality is just a big year generally for the franchise. Because if things don't go right this year, next season, I don't even want to say it. But you know where I'm going. So get off on the right note. Don't get blown out. Don't get your doors blown off. Don't let this be a 17-0 game going into halftime. Play it close. Play physical. Win the game. Win in the trenches. I'll have a little bit more up on my podcast. I'll go through the 3 keys for offense, 3 keys for defense, and kind of my players to watch and X factors and stuff like that on my podcast. My In the Trench with Gangrene, I'll do that tomorrow, so look out for that if you want a little bit more insight. But Jets got to find a way to win. Find a way to win. I don't think it's going to happen. I hope I'm wrong. And then the Ravens win this one 21-14. I think it's a close game. I just think in the end, Ravens will win. So I'll take the under on the over-under 44. I think the Ravens do cover the 6.5. Again, I want the Jets to win. This would just be so big. To get the season off started on the right, have the rookies who are buying in right now, have them buy in even more. It's just, there's so much positives. Find a way to win. Find a way to win this game if you're the New York Jets. So we'll see how it all plays out. So go Jets. Again, my game picks, just to be sure, obviously Ravens over Jets, but, I hope I'm wrong with that. 49ers winning, Panthers winning, Colts winning, Eagles winning, Commanders winning, Patriots winning, Saints winning, Bengals winning, Chiefs winning, Titans winning, Vikings winning, Chargers winning, and the Buccaneers winning. And we'll get to the Broncos and Seahawks on Monday night. Alrighty, so there are your games there, and now we had the fantasy to close things out. I'll actually get the fantasy baseball first. So fantasy baseball, we'll start with that just because we're already on it. Winning one league 150-90, and losing my other league 233-179. All right, so as for my fantasy football team, so I got 4 teams. In my one league right now, I'm currently winning 8-6, and I had Tyler Bass going. In one of my other leagues, I know it's going to be tough to kind of keep track of all this, but in my other league, I am winning 26-0. I had Gabe Davis going. He got me 18 points, 88 yards, 4 catches, a touchdown. Tyler Bass also got me 8. And I did not have anybody go in my other 2 leagues. So last night was, pretty good game, pretty good night for me. Just some roster things. So I'll go through my lineups. I'll read you the names. So one of my team name is Big Daddy 52. So I got Dak Prescott, Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Dalton Schultz, David Montgomery, Colts D, and I obviously already had Tyler Bass go. So those are your guys. Matt Stafford, I benched him. He got me 9 points last night. Did not have any thought of putting him in. I know some people like Thielen a lot this week. I actually have Thielen going in one of my other leagues, and I'll get to that league here. So my other league, Aaron Rodgers, my Bubs 52 league, which I have, Aaron Rodgers, Dalvin Cook, David Montgomery, Keenan Allen, Jerry Jeudy, Darren Waller, Gabe Davis, who already played, Eagles defense, Tyler Bass already played. And I know some people want to play Antonio Gibson this week because of the fact that he's going to be the premier back. And I don't hate that idea. I played Gabe Davis over Gibson last night, and I'm glad I did. But if you're in a situation where you're trying to figure out David Montgomery or an Antonio Gibson, I personally would play Montgomery. But if it's a situation where it's like maybe like a receiver, like a Jude Smith-Schuster or Devontae Smith or Gibson, I like Smith a lot. I'd probably put Gibson in because I think he's going to get a lot of carries tomorrow or on Sunday. And I think he's going to be premier back and get that value out of Gibson now before it's too late. Because soon as his production's going to drop in a little bit. So I would recommend getting that value out of him now. I didn't play him just because of the fact that Gabe Davis, I had him in, and I liked him a lot this week, and I liked him against the Bill, and I liked Gabe Davis, and I was contemplating on who to put in. I spun the wheel on Fantasy Pros. It told me to put in Gibson. I went with Gabe Davis. I would not play Gibson over David Montgomery. I like David Montgomery a lot, and I wouldn't play him obviously over Dalvin Cook. But if you're in a spot where like if you're deciding between like a Juju Smith-Schuster or even like a guy like maybe if you're in a deep league. A guy like Dobbins or Antonio Gibson. With Dobbins being out, Gibson's a good filler. Gibson fell in a lot of drafts just because of last year. He kind of struggled a little bit. So he's a guy to look out for there as well. Elijah Moore, Gibson. I like Elijah Moore, and I actually have him going in one of my leagues. That's another question there, too, for many people out there that had Dobbins. Dobbins in ESPN is rostered in 96.3% of the leagues. So, and he's actually up in plus 0.2%, and he's probably won't play. So for those teams, Gibson's a possible filler for a guy like him. Thielen, projected 13 in a PPR league. He's a guy to look out for. Again, I really like Minnesota's chances against Green Bay. I think they're going to get a lot of chances because I think Green Bay's offense might struggle a little bit. Or you can look at a guy like Elijah Moore, who last year had his best game of the season, and so far his best game of his young career when Joe Flacco was the quarterback against Miami last season. So, Flacco kind of raises Moore's value a little bit. Now you do have more weapons around him, and you've seen Flacco spread the ball out a lot more. But you could say the same thing about Minnesota and Thielen. So you really can't go wrong with either. Now, again, who's the better quarterback? Cousins. Who's the better receiving core? Who's probably the better receiver? Thielen's more proven. If you want to go with the safer option, go with Thielen. If you want to go with the possibility of more kind of exploding this week, maybe higher risk but a higher reward, the high risk being they don't get the ball to him, Flacco's running for his life, given that Dwayne Brown's out, then you go with Thielen if you want to go safe. But if you want to be kind of go bold and go big, Elijah Moore, I think, would probably be a better answer just because of the fact that he played very well last season when Flacco played, number one. And number two, if if Flacco's giving him the ball, he can make plays in space. Why Thielen is probably not going to blow up much is because they got Justin Jefferson, right? Jets don't have a Justin Jefferson. They got a bunch of very good wide receivers. I don't think they have a legit number one just yet. And I think Garrett Wilson could be that guy, but he's got to prove himself, obviously, in all those things. So, if you want to go on the high risk, high reward, go with Elijah Moore. If you want to go the safe bet, but probably won't put up, he might put up a lot of points, but you want to go with the safer bet and a guy that's consistent, go with Thielen. Now, he was a little inconsistent last year, but I think that was the entire Vikings offense. I think Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings as a whole are going to really open up this year when you talk about the offensive side of the ball. So there's thing, again, Kittle's not probably going to play. So I look at it as many people don't have backup tight ends. If you want to try to find a tight end on the waiver wire, a guy like a David Njoku might be available in many leagues. Austin Hooper could be available. I would try to avoid Austin Hooper just because I'm not a huge fan of him or the Titans offense. In a league that I'm in where I have 12 guys, it's 12 people in my league. Robert Tonyan could be an option. I know David Njoku went undrafted in a couple leagues. He could be an option as well. And again, do not drop a guy. Do not drop someone. Do not drop Kittle, obviously. And again, I actually picked up Njoku in one of my leagues for that reason because I thought that Darren Waller was questionable and stuff like that. So. Whatever the case may be there, do you roll, Robert Tonyan could be out there, a Hooper. I would probably take Tonyan over Hooper because I think Tonyan's gonna get a lot more looks now. The fact that Allen Lazard's out, so there's gonna be a lot more looks there. I also think just the fact that, Rodgers needs to rely on his tight ends more now because he doesn't really have those elite receivers around him like a Devontae Adams or an Allen Lazard this week. And again, you look at the flex, and in one of my leagues, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is projected 11.6, right? Devontae Adams is 12 point, or Devontae Smith's 12.2. Do you put the guy that's projected higher against Detroit, or do you put a guy against Helaire? I'm going with Helaire. The only reason I'm going with Helaire is because I think he's going to get a lot of carries. He's going to get a lot of opportunities. And if Mahomes and the offense is struggling to move the ball a little bit in the passing game, Helaire is going to get a lot of opportunities. A lot of people, I think, really kind of got down on Clyde Edwards-Helaire and really got down on him for a reason, obviously, because of the injuries. But when you looked at his games last year, 10 points, 16 points, 19 points, 15 points, 11 points, 19 points, 10 points. He was solid. I think people don't really realize that. He still had a very solid year last year. In those 10 games, he scored 4 touchdowns and had a solid year. In those 10 games he played. 10 games isn't much. He had 517 yards in 10 games. He plays 7 more games. He most likely gets over the 1,000-yard mark. So I think a lot of people are really down on Helaire this year, and I think he's a very solid flex. You have Helaire at flex, I think that's good. At deeper leagues, you might have him at running back too. And I like Devontae Smith too a lot, but I go with Helaire here. And again, you talk about defenses. Eagles defense, Colts defense, any defense like that, going up against a weaker offense. Colts, I like their matchup against Houston. I like another matchup, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati against Pittsburgh could very well, be a possibility there too. San Francisco against Chicago. If things go haywire, Baltimore against the Jets is a high risk, high reward. Because your high risk is Jets play pretty well, they move the ball and they score some points. Your high reward though is if Flacco's being pressured every other play and they can't move the ball. Which is possible given the fact that Max Mitchell's at right tackle and Font now all of a sudden have to move back at left tackle because of Dwayne Brown's out. So you can look at those defenses there. Again, Eagles against Detroit. I'm a big fan of streaming defenses. You know how I am with that. I'm not a big fan of a Vegas against L.A. I would try to gear away from a Kansas City defense. Wouldn't be terrible because, again, I think Arizona's going to struggle without Hopkins. I would gear away from a defense like a Minnesota or Green Bay this week just because of the fact that Minnesota, Green Bay, even with Lazard being out, Rodgers is going to be able to make some plays. I like New England's defense against Miami. I like any defense right now against Miami because I don't think Tua's very good. So there's that. And, Tampa against Dallas is a little risky, but it has hopes to be pretty solid just because of the fact that if Dallas struggles and Dak struggles without Cooper, well, and some injuries, Gallup and stuff like that, they might be able to play well. Todd Bowles too. Being, defensive mind, all that stuff, his defense is, the defense has always been good there. So it's an Dallas Tampa defense matchup's interesting because it's like, you're interested to see what happens with Dallas's offense, how do they play, but it's like Tampa's defense is good, but it's interesting definitely. And again, quarterback's pretty obvious. If you're in a deep league like I am, where you have 3 wide receivers and you're trying to decide like a McLaurin or a Thielen, I'd go with McLaurin. I know a lot of people are high on Brandon Ayuk this year, especially against Chicago, as maybe a flex option. I'm rolling with David Montgomery at my flex just because I think they're going to give him the ball a ton. You have to realize Ayuk, I will tell you, with Kittle being out, Ayuk plays a big role. He's going to be that much bigger. Same thing with Deebo Samuel. You're going to see a lot more points out of those guys this week, I think, because Kittle's out. So you're going to see a lot more targets. So you could definitely make the case that Ayuk could be in at flex in a deeper league, like a 12-man, 3-receiver league. Ayuk definitely should be at your wide receiver 3, if not your flex. Ayuk's a good play this week. The only reason why I'm playing David Montgomery is because I think they're going to force-feed him the ball. Right? I think they're going to give him the ball a ton. They're outside of Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet, who really haven't shown you much. Cole Kmet really hasn't shown you much. You're going to give the ball, I think, a lot to David Montgomery. But Ayuk's stock does rise that Kittle's out. So, all those stuff. So that's kind of just your advice. Obviously, some of your other stuff. Your obvious starts are Cook, Adams, Keenan Allen. Guys like, if you're deciding on whether to start like a Jerry Jeudy or like a McLaurin, maybe in like a deeper league, I'd probably go with McLaurin just because I think, he's going to get a lot more targets. You have to realize Judy's kind of sharing them with Sutton. They also have Javonte Williams. That's very promising. So you're going to see them spread the ball out them too. It is against Seattle, though, so there's going to be a lot of opportunities. Seattle's defense not very good, but I just like McLaurin. He's a focal point of that offense. So all that stuff. So that's kind of just your advice. If you're kind of being pounded with injuries and Kittle's out and Dobbins is out in your league and maybe you had Lazard or something, if you want to go real deep, McCole Harmon's a possible option. A guy like McKissick, who's going to get opportunities behind Gibson against Jacksonville, is an option. Tyler Boyd's always an option. Michael Carter, projected 11, obviously behind Breece. He's a guy that can do just about everything. You might see a little bit more of him this week, just because Flacco likes to spread the ball out a lot. So that's kind of your stuff on fantasy. Again, if I didn't answer every question, I tried to think of as many as I could. Kind of wrote some down. You can always comment in the comment section below. I'll definitely, try to answer the best I can and give you all the advice I can as we head into the first week of fantasy football. All right, so now let's get to the New York Sports Update. Finish it off with a little bit of baseball here. Cubs, Giants today, Pirates, Cardinals, Nationals, Phillies, Red Sox, Orioles, Blue Jays, Rangers, Astros, Angels, Twins, Guardians, Reds, Brewers, Tigers, Royals, Diamondbacks, Rockies, Mariners, Braves, Dodgers, Padres, and the A's, White Sox. Mets, Marlins tonight. Mets come into this game 87-51. Marlins come into this game 56-80. Mets got David Peterson on the mound. He's 7-3 with a 3.32 ERA. And the Marlins got Cabrera on the mound. He's 4-2 with a 2.39 ERA. Over under set at 7.5 tonight, 6:40 p.m. Eastern. You can find on SNY. Yankees, Rays tonight. Yankees come into this game 83-55. Rays come into this game 77-58. 7:05 Eastern Prime Video. Drew Rasmussen on the mound for the Rays. Frankie Montez on the mound for the Yankees. Rasmussen 9-4 with a 2.70 ERA. Montez 5-11 with a 3.79 ERA. Coming off a very, very good. What was I going to say? Very good to start last time out. Over under set at 7 for Frankie Montez. He'll be back at home and a big series against the Rays. Very big series against the Rays, no matter how you look at it. It's not a series where you're going to lose the division lead, but it's still a very big series. You can kind of put the Rays back to being a little bit away if you beat them. Like if you take 2 or 3 or even sweep Tampa, you can kind of put them away again. And it would take a very massive comeback for the Rays. You can do that. So we'll see what happens. But that will do it for my Football Friday podcast. Again, if you have any fantasy other questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. You can always just pop it in the comments down below. So I'll always check those out. And hopefully I answered any questions you got. And we'll see how it all plays out. So Enjoy your weekend, everybody. As you know, I'll have my Bubs Talking Baseball podcast up, and I'll also have Into Trench with Gang Green tomorrow and all that good stuff. I'll do my preview, so look out for that on Apple Podcasts. But as for this podcast, as you know, I'll see you back here on the flip side. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the baseball. Enjoy the football. Let's go, Jets. Get a win. Get a win. Start the season on a good note and get a win. Protect Flacco. Stop Lamar. Defensive line, step up in big moments. Feed off the home crowd. You know, a little bit of adversity this week. Let's fight through it and get a win. Let's do that for once. Let's win a September game for the first time since Sam Darnold's first game with the Jets against the Lions back in 2018. Let's do it. So, looking forward to that. Enjoy the football. Enjoy your weekend. I will see you all back here on the flip side. As always, I will see you all back here on Monday. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.